So we've all been told certain things about ourselves that have stuck with us for the entirety of our lives, especially when we're young, when we're kids, when we're in our teenage years. Maybe we were called dumb, and maybe we were called ugly, fat, some sort of insult. Maybe we were just made to feel like we weren't good enough or that we were less than. And when these experiences happen, they sort of stick with us for the entirety of our lives. They sort of, when they did happen, there was sort of an emotion there that we felt, and there was a story attached to that emotion. I'm sure that you can right now remember a time where you were made to feel low, or maybe even if you can't think of it right now, I'm sure that you have been through that at some point in your life. And that story sort of stays with us, like it stays in the back of our mind for our whole life, and it sort of prevents us from being who we truly want to be. A really good example is if you just maybe you weren't good at something, maybe some sport or something, or some an instrument or some sort of extracurricular thing you tried to do when you were young, or maybe you weren't good at your schoolwork. And other people made this obvious to you because that's just how people are. They're going to always bring out the worst in others to make themselves feel better. And when you were young, that really had a profound effect on you. And it stuck with you for the rest of your life. And it may have really prevented you from doing the things that you really wanted to do. That story is always going to sort of be there, sort of holding you back and causing you to feel a certain way about yourself. That's all that low self-esteem and very depressive, insecure kinds of thoughts. It's just sort of past experiences, past things that we've been told that are sort of stored in our mind, and they kind of just come up at certain times, and they present certain emotions in us. And the thing is, like these stories that I'm calling them, sort of just those past experiences, those past events, we attach our whole identity to them because they become our whole reality. We become so engrossed in them, and maybe at some point that was true, whatever the thing was. But even if it changes, even if the thing you have improved with that thing, even if you've overcame it, maybe you've become very intelligent, maybe you lost a lot of weight, maybe you've become very attractive, you're still going to have this sort of toxic belief instilled in you. That's what trauma is. It's just like this belief that's so instilled in you. And it's so hard to get rid of. It's so hard to kind of divorce yourself from this. But that's one of the main things that this work is really about. It's about, this is why mindfulness is so powerful, because it's not just about sitting here and meditating in the present moment. It's about letting go of all of those beliefs you have about yourself, about other people. It's about letting go of all those ideas that are holding you back and causing you all of this shame and misery. And as we constantly sort of rerun these stories in our head, the emotion will always come up with it. And even if the story is not blatantly obvious, it's sort of I'm trying to give you a more blatant example. For example, if you had a parent who told you when you were young that you're not good enough, maybe they outright said that to you, it created this sort of hurt in you. It created this sort of pain inside of you. And now in other situations in adulthood that you encounter, maybe people who say similar things, or maybe someone who has a very similar personality to the parent who did this to you, that emotion is going to start surfacing. That fear, that hurt, that pain is going to kind of start coming up. And you may not even realize it. You may not even be conscious of it. This happens all the time, especially in this is why I think relationships are important, because they bring a lot of this stuff up. If you had a caregiver or a parent abandon you at some point in life, or made you feel kind of abandoned or neglected in some way, and now you're in a relationship with somebody who's also kind of doing similar behaviors, you're going to constantly be on edge that they're going to abandon you, that they're going to leave you. And these emotions are going to start surfacing. And it's really important to notice when this is happening. Notice when these emotions are coming up. This is what the letting go technique is all about. If you've watched some of my previous videos, it's noticing when those emotions are coming up in those times, when you're starting to sort of identify with those stories, identify with the past. And it's a matter of letting it come up, being aware of it, being able to sit with it and just letting it be there. You have to really learn to divorce yourself from the stories in your mind and feel the emotion that's attached to it. When you learn to feel the emotion, the story will sort of subside on its own. I've learned this for myself. I was so convinced certain things about myself from the situations I've been through in life. But I realized when I was able to let go of the emotion, that story that I attached to, so that I held on to so tightly, and that I was so convinced of that it became my whole reality, I realized that it's all nonsense. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but one key aspect of this is when you find yourself getting lost in the past, you have to be very persistent to not allow your mind to get stuck in there. And this is why, mindfulness is such an important practice in this kind of work, because it's really conditioning your brain to not live and be stuck in the past. So when you can just sit for 15 to 20 minutes a day and just be focused on right now, it's sort of conditioning your mind to not get lost in these past stories. When we think about these stories, the emotion sort of comes up, and it almost puts us back in, like, you're almost traveling back to the past. And that's why so many people are suffering from depression. I mean, I think that's mostly what depression is. It's just your mind being so stuck in these past stories and identifying with them so much. And you have to be very persistent and vigilant to stay here focused on right now. And it's not an easy task. It could take a very long time to sort of condition your brain to really stay in the moment. And even if you do work with, say a therapist or something, which I do think could be beneficial, the reason that therapy doesn't work for a lot of people is because they're just rehashing these same stories over and over. You have to do it from a place of mindfulness and awareness if you truly want to heal from the things that you've been through in the past. It's not going to happen by just telling the story over and over again. You're not going to heal from it by constantly just thinking about the story, letting it replay in your mind. I mean, how many times have you done this with a breakup or something, for example? You just keep replaying the same scenario over and over in your head. What could I have done different? I wish I had done this different, right? We really have to truly learn to let go of this. And sometimes it's a matter of just being honest with yourself in those moments. Just breaking that pattern to, we're just addicted to thinking. I mean, that's all that it is. We're just so addicted to thinking in the past and in the future too, if you have a lot of anxiety. If you were on edge a lot as a kid for some reason, if you lived in a very toxic household, you may have been living in sort of this survival state, and you were always on edge. You didn't know when maybe you were going to be abused, or when your parents were going to yell at each other, or when you were going to get picked on at school or something like that. You were kind of always in this sort of survival mode. This kind of created for you to be stuck in stories in the future. And stories in the past, like if you're depressed, that could come from guilt. That could have been because you were made to feel guilty in some way. Maybe your parents told you, or whoever told you that you were kind of like an inconvenience that'll present a lot of guilt for you, and you'll constantly be stuck in the past. You'll be stuck with a lot of guilt. But it's really, I don't think that we can ever truly find peace until we learn to let go of the stories in our mind and to just be focused on right here, because none of those stories exist in the present moment. Notice this. The next time you're getting stuck in your head, you're getting stuck in your thoughts, just notice that none of this stuff is happening right now. None of this is really affecting me right now. It's all just thoughts and emotions that are coming back and creeping back in me. And you really have to learn to not give into them, to not let your mind pull you back to the past or pull you into the future. You're safe in the present moment. You're always safe in the present moment. Nothing can hurt you here. And always remind yourself of that whenever you're getting lost, whenever your mind is causing you a bunch of distress. It's getting stuck in these stories. It's making you believe that they're real. Just simply bring yourself back to this moment. Take a deep breath. You are safe here and now. You're always safe in this moment. Thanks for watching.